Hello and welcome to the CEO Entrepreneur Magazine's video shows. I'm your host, Nick Valia. In a minute, we are going to be talking with perhaps the most knowledgeable spokesperson at perhaps the most experienced standardized assessment provider for hiring decisions in the world, particularly as they relate to building a sales team. I promise you, if you want to improve your hiring practices, you must listen to this conversation. Nothing is more important than good hiring decisions in building your firm. Our guest today is Todd Harris, the head of research at PI Worldwide, a 50-year-old privately held company that advises senior executives at Fortune 500 firms on human capital decisions and provides scientific rigor to assessment, placement, and onboarding of management and staff alike. Here you go. I wanted to begin with asking you a question. What does your company do?
PI Worldwide provides management consulting services to small, medium, and large-size firms across industries and across the world. And we really focus on putting information into leaders' hands to help those leaders make better decisions about their people. Everything from hiring to onboarding to executive selection and assessment.
Wonderful. So you've been around for a while, I understand.
Yes, 55 years. So company was founded during the Eisenhower administration, and now we've gone right through to the Obama administration.
Wonderful. So it sounds like whatever it is that you're doing is certainly well accepted in the market, and it has made an impact into various firms' decision making. And given that you're very selective about what you do.
Yes, we would certainly like to think so, Nick. And I think one of the nice things about the company is many of the clients that we work with, we've been working with for upwards of 20 and 30 and in some cases literally 50 years. So seeing their companies grow over time has been absolutely wonderful.
Great. Let me ask you this question. When you say people decision, obviously that's in my mind, if not the only, but one of the top most critical decision any CEO or senior executive can make, because that to a large extent determines their performance as a CEO, as an executive, and also the company's performance. Is that fair to say?
I think so, Nick, in that from a CEO's perspective or other C-level executives' perspective, I simply don't think that there is a more important and more profoundly fundamental decision that leaders make than who they bring into the organization. Because if you don't get that selection decision correct, no matter what type of strategy you have, no matter what type of products that you sell, you really won't be able to deliver that ultimate value to your customers. So yes, it's a absolutely critical decision.
Now let me ask you something to point out to you two different points of view, and then let me understand where your firm stands or where you stand, given that you are the head of the research function, which is fundamentally developing your product. So hiring people or engaging people or onboarding them, as you just said, essentially we see as four fundamental steps: attracting the right talent, assessing the talent, enticing them to join, and then onboarding. If these four steps are done in alignment, chances are you'll be successful with your people decision. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would certainly agree with that, Nick, and I think alignment, the term that you used, I think is very critical, and that as I kind of look out across our global client base, and PI Worldwide, we work with roughly 8,000 different clients across the globe, across all types of industries, and when I talk to senior leaders, that alignment term that you used really comes to the fore. quite a bit. So get all of their talent management, all of their human resources processes and competencies aligned and pulling in the same direction. So I think alignment is critical in 2011, certainly.
So the two camps that I was describing, on one end is the kind of people who are very intuitive. I've talked to some people, the recruiters and headhunters at the senior level, board level, and CEO levels, and they talk about intuitive methods of assessing fit. And you know, all these four components are important, but assessment is obviously, if not more, just as important, because if you fail there, certainly all your effort has been wasted. The rest of the other places, if you make a little bit of a mistake, you can fix things, but you can't fix once the assessment has been done wrong. So they often talk about assessment driven by their intuitive understanding of the client requirements and the individual they are assessing. On the other hand of the spectrum is the quantitative methods, the more structured, process-driven approaches to assessment. And I've talked to a lot of CEOs. Some of them point out that they're growing very well in terms of revenue, but they're not able to manage growth because they are let's say inefficient in their ability to attract and retain the right talent. Which camp do you sit on? And I agree, to complete my statement, that both of them are needed, the quantitative and the intuitive, but for our sake of discussion, let's split the two and say one or the other. Which camp do you sit on?
Well, I certainly come down on the quantitative side, Nick, and one other thing that I might add to kind of that four-step process in terms of what we help our clients try to do is really think, and maybe it comes in the kind of attracting talent phase. Basically really understand what is the blueprint, what is the target, what is the benchmark in terms of who they're trying to bring in to the organization. So, what are those fundamental areas of knowledge, skills, abilities, personality traits that are going to allow that person to be successful in a given role, whether it's a first-line supervisor or CEO. So I think identifying the blueprint, one of the things I often say to clients is that it's hard to hit a target if you don't know what or where the target is. So I think that's certainly a fundamental addition. And then I really do come down on the quantitative side of things, in that the science of assessment, I think, has evolved and improved markedly over the last 40 to 50 years or so, and that industrial organizational psychologists, such as myself, know a lot more about how to hire people, using a combination of structured methods, and I think HR and talent management systems that employ those structured methods generally outperform those that don't in the long run. So I definitely come down on the quantitative and structured side of the equation.
That's wonderful, and as I had mentioned during an earlier conversation, I also come from a background of the quantitative side, so I'm biased a little bit, but I would like to explore this. And there's a reason why I want to explore this, because it is counterintuitive. I'm a scuba diver, and when I started doing my scuba diving training, we are taught how to control your instinct and not do what seems to be most instinctive thing to do, because it can be harmful. But again, our instincts are our instincts. So in this situation as well, the way I see is, hiring process, people tend to be driven by their intuitive methods or the gut feel, and they're more attracted towards that because that's understandable. That's what people have grown up to be. But when you talk about quantitative sciences, most, if not many, if not most, are kind of seeing it as a black box. You ask these 20 questions, 50 questions, and develop a scale, and people don't want to trust that. So can you tell me what's been your experience? Where exactly does where do the quantitative methods seem to be more helpful why do you find that the quantitative methods tend to be long-term more successful in hiring decisions as opposed to going by your gut feel?
Yeah, it's interesting, Nick, and that the way that I view it as a psychologist is that most human beings, including managers and leaders and CEOs in organizations, tend to kind of overestimate their ability and their accuracy in terms of kind of choosing employees, in terms of who is going to be a good employee or not. It's kind of a fundamental error oftentimes in how we process information. And oftentimes, for example, you just end up selecting someone that you either like or someone that kind of is of like mind and like temperament and very similar to you. So there's a large body of research, a large body of data that indicates that human beings in many ways are kind of shall we say somewhat flawed judges of talent, and not all that accurate. Now, that said, I think it's important for psychologists, for consultants, to work with their clients in such a way to help them understand those biases, help them understand the benefits of using kind of more structured types of methodologies, and also help those clients use those methodologies in a way that's easier for them to use, that's faster for them to use, and that ultimately has the most applied impact on the business. And I think oftentimes that's where psychologists and management consultants fall short in terms of that educational component. But I think the data and the research very, very clear, Nick, in that the use of those more quantitative methods, if they're applied rigorously and consistently over time, really outperforms that gut level of decision making, that instinctual level of decision making that we all kind of bring to our work.
So, what are some of the instruments or tests or assessment batteries that you typically suggest or use?
Well, our company, our kind of flagship product, Nick, is something called the Predictive Index, and it's a measure of fundamental personality traits, things like levels of dominance, levels of extroversion, work pace, and formality, so essentially how detail-oriented someone is. And that's a personality assessment that can be used across positions, across companies, across countries, and that really is kind of the cornerstone of our approach in terms of working with our clients from a talent management perspective. So the Predictive Index is a personality assessment. So that's the first kind of assessment or tool that we offer. We also do a lot of work, as you might imagine, with sales organizations, and certainly have been doing that over a number of years now. And we also have something called the Selling Skills Assessment Tool, which is a measure of fundamental sales skills, and which allows companies to customize their sales training and sales development efforts in terms of both individual sales reps' strengths and weaknesses, and what those strengths and weaknesses look like in terms of the entire global sales organization. And a lot of sales organizations will pair the data and the information that is derived from those sales assessments with the personality data yielded by the Predictive Index to drive both selection and development decisions.
Now, when you engage with your clients, do you merely provide these instruments, or do you also provide services where, almost like a recruiter or a headhunter, engage with the client and understand their needs, not only do the personality and skills assessments, but also engage on the interview level, so on and so forth, to be able to quantify and then say these are your top 3 candidates for this role?
Yeah, a great question, Nick. And fundamentally, what we try to do in terms of the predictive index, it's really a combination of kind of 3 components. The first one being assessment. So, kind of taking the assessment itself and the data and measurements that derive from that. So the assessment is the first component. The second component is really consulting, and the vast majority of our 350 consultants around the world have very deep and long industry expertise, whether it's telecom, information technology, healthcare, financial services, transportation, you name it. So they essentially partner with our clients in a very consultative fashion and a consultative role in terms of understanding what are the client's business challenges and what are the people implications of those challenges in terms of selection and hiring and development. So the consulting piece is quite important. And then lastly, the last kind of component in terms of how we work with our clients is really through education. We have a predictive index management workshop, a highly customizable 2-day kind of full immersion course where leaders from our clients will come and basically learn all about our methodologies, how the data are collected from a personality perspective, and how to put that information and put that data into action in terms of people decisions. Again, whether it's selection, whether it's coaching, whether it's team building, whether it's considering a candidate for promotion, and any number of other things. So it's really a combination of those 3 things: assessment, consulting, and education.
So you have a 360-degree assessment toolkit, so to speak.
We actually don't necessarily do kind of 360 types of work, although oftentimes the personality data that the predictive index will yield are actually looked at in conjunction with 360 types of data and other types of assessments and data points. So hopefully the client is looking at all of the data for an individual applicant or an individual incumbent in kind of a comprehensive and integrated fashion.